Well, it's windy outside, it's hot outside, I'm not going to be in the woods, so I figured I'd just kind of update everybody on the progress I've been on my one of my fun projects here. Now I'm calling this the Scorched Earth Robotic Hunter Killer. Excellent patio grass. It's something I've been playing with just for fun. It's based on this earlier prototype of it. I'm using a bogey Runt Rover platform I got from Servo City, and this is an earlier one. This is from a couple years ago, and it was just a concept at that time, and it needed a lot of work to be something a little more functional. But I kind of picked it up the other day and started playing with it, and it is now a lot more functional. And I'm thinking it may actually become fully functional with a little bit more work. But I haven't really changed the electronics. In fact, if you want to see how I measure the light and have it lined up with the sun all the time, just go to Google or search for DIY science measuring light with a photodiode 2. And he talks about how he uses his LTC 1050. This is the artwork. If anybody wants to just drop me a line for the LCT 1053, which is a dual op amp. That way I can compare left side and right side and make sure that the line up right with the sun. However, I've noticed something since I've been working with these things that even though they're not fully shaded, they can be full output when the sensor, I'm using these PDB C139 photodiodes. I use that for almost all my solar positioning projects, but they can be full output even when they're only half shaded or half in sun. So I've been using a diffuser for some of my more sensitive things, and that's been working really good. But this earlier one, I didn't switch this one around here. But I did make a lot of other modifications. So this is, first off, it has bumpers now. These bumper switches. I 3D printed a bunch of bumper switches up here too. So the front ones are not active until the back ones are. When the back ones hit something, it'll advance the whole thing until the front ones hit something, and it repeats the whole process. So that's the first thing. It really needed bumpers. Um, the second upgrade I did on this was the solar panels. These three solar panels produce around 18 volts. In fact, it will run this whole platform on it, wheels, everything, just from the solar, but it doesn't have the torque. Um, but it's enough actually, it charges the batteries up, which I'm really happy to see because I can run this for several hours and check the charge in the batteries, and the batteries are still fully charged. So, because I'm using the batteries on here to kind of give a little bit more of the torque when necessary. And the batteries are just these are nickel metal hydride batteries. I got four on this side and four on the other side. They're in series. There is a blocking diode, hard to see in here, but there's a blocking diode to keep things from flowing back. So if the solar panels are charging, they will charge these up. I'm not exactly. I didn't look up the capacitance or how much these things can charge. In fact, I was just trying to experiment, and I realized, geez, simply hooking these things to solar, they work and they keep charged up. They do get warm. They do not get hot, which is what these batteries do. So I think the process why they're not overheating is because I'm not just directly charging them forever. This thing runs only 30 seconds when it burns, and so what's happening is it's charging, discharging, charging, and discharging. So I think that chemical reaction or however that's working is keeps these from overheating. That's just my opinion, but it's working, and I'm not going to mess with it. Um, okay, this is my new power supply. I'm getting rid of the LM7808 power supply that used to run. You can't see a picture of it here, but this is a reference for it. In fact, I've switched over. I'm kind of anti the linear series 7805s and 7808s for the power supply. They're just not efficient. They've been using of a lot more power. And when you're doing solar projects, you need to kind of conserve where you can. I put a larger capacitor too on the board just to prevent any brownouts or anything, but it's not been a problem. But Yeah, I like those power supplies. I have a new switch assembly too. In fact, what you're seeing down here is aluminum sheet here. It's real thin. This is a heat shield, but it's also a counterweight for the switch. Now I'll get more in detail about how this switch works, but it's really has helped us a whole lot, being a lot more sensitive. Here's the switch itself, and before I start the video here, you can see why I need the heat shield. This is actually already scorched, because the problem is I didn't get this project finished until later this fall. Sun's a lot lower, and so the heat is a lot further back under it. So you really have to have the heat shield. One of my earlier prototypes looked like it was hit by a laser blast. It just melted one of these support struts right off. But what you don't see here very clearly in the there's a small disc magnet mounted right in the middle of this lever arm here. And these holes I designed here, these things hold reed relays, reed switches. And so I'll get this video going here. So when the grass, and it doesn't take much grass to trigger this, and the magnet will go up and activate the reed relay switches. And now I do have these output of all these reed relay switches going into an interrupt on my Arduino Nano, because it's happened so quickly you're never going to see that if the program has to wait for it. So this will switch it in a small variable in the interrupt routine. All I need to do then is just look at the variable and pull that, and it'll tell me if it's switched or not. It's been working very well. I have, like I said, I think I need a bigger heat shield, but really no complaints. Okay, this is the lever you see here, this little bent thing on the top. That's just a simple thing with a little nut I can put on there. I can raise the switch of the grass switch up and down to get it adjusted correctly. My patio is not that flat. It's got a lot of rough surfaces to it, but this little rover seems to do well. I also upgraded the software. A lot more boost. I'm using a lot higher numbers. I have a Pololo motor controller here, and I actually increased the torque of that. So it really starts and then it will kind of slow down a little bit in the algorithm. But yeah, it used to kind of get stuck, and now it will kind of lunge itself around. So the bumpers are 3D printed. There's a small bearing in the middle here. This is just a piece of wire I stuck through here because it's what I had, convenience. I do have some fiberglass, small diameter fiberglass rods coming in. It needs to be outside, so it's the same width as the solar, because the solar is wider. Sometimes it'll hang up because it just doesn't hit the bumper. Here's the front switches. I don't have that thing extended out front, but that's been working great. Here's what happens. I'm just turning this on, going back to turn the camera on here. But what happens here when you first turn it on, it'll adjust itself and line itself up with the sun, and then it'll go back until the switch gets hit by grass. It flips it up and it sees that. And what I designed this for, in about 30 seconds, that's how long every burn will be. And once it first gets grass, it's going to go through 6 repetitions. It won't even look at the sun. It'll just move just a little bit, a quarter inch or so, and burn more. In fact, you'll see a stretch of burn in the grass. And sometimes I even have a flame, but it doesn't exist too long. Again, heat shield. There, it just jumped. And after 6 jumps, then it will, instead of just jumping again, then it'll reorient itself to the sun, which we'll do soon here. Okay, now reorient itself and go back, and if it triggers on grass, great. It starts just burning again and starts those 6 steps again. And it repeats that and repeats that until the back bumper is activated. I have some posts on a table on my patio here. And once it hits that, it'll back into it and run away. And then the front bumper hits something, it stops it. The whole process repeats again. So it's been a fun little project, I have to say. I kind of Um, do think it's going to be practical, but getting it even better. But I'm seeing these brown spots all over my patio, and the days where I have good full sun and I can just let it run, you'll see stretches, you'll see streaks, because it will change the vector of the sun. We'll follow the sun, so it goes back and forth, and that vector changes, and you'll see these streaks in it. Will it eliminate all the grass? No. will it? Will it tame it? Yes. Is it a lot of fun? Yes. So I'm kind of happy with this one. So anyway, if I will post any of this stuff on Thingiverse if anybody wants the 3D printed pieces and all that too. If you want to kind of go that route, and same with the software. I don't, if anybody wants that, just drop me a line and we'll go from there. So anyway, hope it helps.